Hi, Mr. Anker here with a review of imaginary numbers. You may remember from Algebra 2 that the imaginary number I is equal to the principal square root of -1. Okay, the reason being a square root tells you what number times itself will equal the number under the square root sign. And there is no number times itself that equals -1, because if you remember, -1 times -1 equals +1, because a negative times a negative is positive, and 1 times 1 also equals +1. So there's no number that we can multiply by itself to get -1. Hence, we come up with this imaginary number, which is actually used a lot in real-world applications, such as electrical engineering, sometimes in satellite stuff, and also quantum mechanics and that kind of thing. Another way to define I is to say that I squared equals -1. That's another way that I is defined. And that helps me segue into the next section, which is reviewing the powers of I. So remember, I equals the square root of -1. I squared will equal just plain old -1. I cubed equals I squared times I, which is equal to -1 times I. So it equals -I. I to the fourth equals I cubed times I. Or another way to write it is I squared times I squared. Which is -1 times -1, which is just plain old 1. Okay? So I to the fourth is 1. I to the fifth equals I to the fourth times I, or +1 times I. So that's just I. So I to the fifth starts to repeat the pattern again, and then you'll see that I to the sixth will equal -1, and so forth. And we can use that pattern to figure out I to higher powers. So if I want to figure out I to the 78th power, well, I know that the pattern repeats every four times we go through I. So, go I to the first, I to the second, I cubed, I to the fourth, then it starts to repeat again. So if I divided 78 by 4, I'd get 19.5. So another way I can write this is I to the 76th power times I squared. Okay, and the way I can write it that way is because 76 divided by 4 is 19, so it's like I to the fourth power raised to the 19th power. Because with the power raised to a power, you multiply them. So 4 times 19 gives me 76. Times I squared is -1. I to the fourth is just 1. So 1 to the 19th power times -1. Well, 1 to any power is just 1, so this becomes 1 times -1, which just equals -1. So a little bit of a process to figure that out, but we come to our solution as -1. So let's look at I to the 103rd power. Well, another way we can write this is I to the 100th power, because 100 is directly divisible by 4, times I cubed. I cubed is going to be -I. I to the 100th power we can write as I to the 4th power raised to the 25th power. Or 1 raised to the 25th power. Again, times -I. Okay. 1 raised to any power is just 1. So we have 1 times -I, which just equals -I. So that was just a little review of imaginary numbers and imaginary numbers, or I raised to a power. Thank you for watching. If you have a question, leave a comment in the comments below. Also, if you are a pre-calc student, as this is aimed at pre-calc students, you might want to check out my blog aimed at pre-calc students, helping you become a pre-calc genius. It's called precalcgenius.com. I'll leave a link to that in the description. And finally, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.